Grant Daniel now.
It's Grant Daniel.
The gold logie this year. Oh my God, it's Grant Daniel.
And our mum, Shazzy Daniel. She's really crazy. And
George,
affectionately known
as Large Sarge.
It's all true.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Shazzy Denya.
and
George.
Gee, it's good to be back after a record-breaking week for the It's All True podcast. The little train that could, kids.
And that really sad promo of me crying.
Oh, mate. As Drake said in his song, we started from the bottom, now we here.
What?
Yeah, it's a banger. You would know.
Yeah, it is a banger. It's so strange, guys, like working with you on sad promos, because we're sitting there and you know, the insiders of TV and podcasting and radio know this, that, you know, tears get ears. And they were real tears, but it's so weird. It's not like I'm playing with your emotions, but it's so weird to cut up a promo video of you crying. It feels like I'm replaying a very sad memory.
Who cares? 40,000 people watch on YouTube. So we're out there to break the history books, everyone. Yep. You know what? They laughed at us when we started this podcast and said, what, the Denyers are going to talk about themselves? Well, that'll be fun for 2 seconds. And then, you know what? We shut down the women's magazines. We put them in our place. We've been talking about UFOs. We've been talking about panthers. We've been talking about mediums. We've been talking about, you know what we're talking about today? We're talking about one of the greatest topics this country has ever had.
What is it?
It's Yowies.
We'd play your sound effect.
What?
For crying.
Yowies. You want a sound effect?
Like,
Yeah. Now, I don't know if I've got maybe the definition of Yowies correct, but as a young kid growing up in this country, when we lived on a farm, an adult would always tease you, say, don't go out in the dark, the Yowie might get you.
that is terrifying.
Yep, sure shit was. I never went out in the dark. Not enough bloody torches in this world could make me go out once the sun had gone down when I lived out on the farm. Right. Now, look, it's a fabled story. It's up there with the Black Panther. We've seen that on our property. We've spoken to experts who have eyewitness accounts left, right, and centre.
I'm an eyewitness account.
So we tick that off. It's a thing. UFOs. The US government has confirmed that. Boom. It's a thing. They're going, look at all the footage from our American warships. Here they are, UFOs. Now, to conquer the latest frontier is Dean from Yowie Hunters, Australia. Dean, have I got the title correct? Welcome to our little podcast. It's great to have you on board, young man.
Grant, Shez. Nice to be here. Dean Harrison, Australian Yowie Research, yowiehunters.com. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years now.
Wow.
I had my first encounter back in 95. So, yeah, you're right. And you guys, you're living right in the mix of things out there in Bathurst.
What do you mean? Why?
Oh, my God.
Well, reported sightings around your area on the western side of the Blue Mountains, for example. They've had reports since the probably early to mid 1800s in the newspapers.
Whoa. Okay. All right.
So I've
got lots of questions.
We need to get the definition of. We're saying the word Yowie.
Yeah.
What is a Yowie?
Right. Okay. What is a Yowie and how did they get here? I guess that's the question. Now, the Aboriginal culture, they've got a long tradition with the Yowie. Of course, as you'd know, they have the cave art, the rock art of the Yowie for like tens of thousands of years. What is a Yowie? It's essentially, it is a hominid. Not a hominin. You and I, we're hominins. They are hominids. So the hominids come from the great apes. The hominins, who we are, we come from the Denisovans mixed with Neanderthal. So the whole world was a big mixing pot of DNA, basically, years ago. So they're saying at the moment, although paleontology and archaeology facts change all the time with each new find, but at the moment they're saying out of Africa, this is where we all started, and we all sort of flooded down towards this country, and we had a land bridge from Australia going all the way up to basically the rest of the world, and we'd island hop and and get down here. But 7,000 years ago, when the sea levels rose, Australia was isolated. So whatever was here stayed here, land trapped.
So,
Wow.
look, am I oversimplifying this? And maybe this is completely wrong, but am I just saying, is this just the Aussie version of Bigfoot?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Right.
Essentially, that's what it is. But the difference, the underlying difference with Australia is that we have different species here, as where America just has the one Bigfoot, and, you know, it's basically the same description as what we have here, but we've got different types in this country.
What do you mean by different types? Different types of yowies?
Yeah. So we've got the Gingera, Jungidi, etc. These are Aboriginal terminologies, obviously. So they're the shorter ones, about 4 feet tall and fully grown at that height. But we also have the Turrimelli and the Quincan, which is, you know, you're going up for about 10 feet. The footage that we took a couple of years ago in Springbrook,
It's footage?
southeastern Queensland, these ones, we've measured them. They're at least 9 feet. 9 feet tall.
Okay.
Whoa!
Right. I've got so many questions right now. Okay. First of all, I had no idea that there was different species of yowie. That's
No, me
like,
either.
that is amazing. You said earlier that your first sighting was, did you say in the 1990s?
Talk us through that.
Yeah.
1995. That was my first introduction to them. But the kicker for me was in 97 when I was living in Ormo, which is like halfway between the Gold Coast
So your sister lives.
and Brisbane. And this one, that was a real game changer. This thing, he wanted me, and boy, did he want me. I was just really lucky on this particular night that I didn't jog down this track through the bush and swamp, which I was doing regularly in previous previous weeks. If I had have run down this track on that particular night, I wouldn't be here right now, because this thing really meant business. And furthermore, it caused so much strife around the area that I ended up calling in a few favors from the SAS.
So what did you see?
yeah,
Describe it to us. What did you see, and how did you know it wanted to do something to you?
To do something. Like, did they eat you?
It wanted you.
I just think it just wanted to kill me.
Right.
Basically. It was a stalking process. I was on the phone at the time, and that's the only reason I wasn't actually walking down or jogging down this track, is because I wanted to make a phone call quickly before I ran down the track. If I hadn't made that phone call, as I said before, I wouldn't be here now. So I'm on the phone, I'm listening to the conversation, a female friend, and I could hear all this crashing and commotion going on behind me in the bush. Again, 11 o'clock at night, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all going on behind me. And I'm thinking to myself that it's got to be a group of kids that have snuck out at night, like as we all did, right?
Yeah.
And but this was a Tuesday night. And I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of odd. This is like a school night. All right. And so it's coming towards me, crashing branches coming down, small trees being felled, etc. And then suddenly all the noise subsided. And I thought, okay, they found their way out. And then not long after then, I could hear a branch break or a twig break, foliage being parted and all that sort of thing. And then I was uniquely aware that there was a stalking process going on, because it was just getting closer and closer and closer and closer. Now, as it came right up behind me, I said on the phone, I said, I've got somebody listening into our conversation, etc. Let's see what's on his mind. Because, I mean, I was fit, and I was young, and I was boxing, and I wasn't scared of anyone. And I said, yeah, let's see what's on his mind.
Because you thought it was a kid.
As it comes right behind me, and just within the bush line, I just got these chills that went all over me. They went from my head to my toes and back up again. My hair stood on end, and this was like an unnatural feeling that I couldn't grasp. And why am I feeling like this? And I knew it was uniquely because of this thing behind me. And there's also like the sixth sense of you don't want to make eye contact.
Right.
And
Is
so
there
that's
a smell?
where
Is there like
not with this one, but the one that hit me, which is like several years later, that did have a smell.
Hit
you? Oh my God.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What
Yep.
did you-
I had about 8 months of PTSD.
Okay, you're going to have to, right.
Did
Okay.
he slap you down? Did he jump on you? What's the
Did he
deal?
Will
Right
Smith
in the
you?
chest. Hit me right in the chest.
Right. And what kind of breed was he? And where did you find him?
All right, so
And what are you doing out in the bush? What are you doing out in the bush after nearly being killed by this crazy thing?
it's called being a slow learner, I think.
Yeah, right.
It's just called complacency. So, we were out at Kilkeven, and I'm not quite sure. I don't know if you know where Kilkeven is,
No.
but it's just a little bit west of Gympie. And it's a mountainous terrain out there. Now, we'd had experiences with with this clan of them. So they're a family, right?
Right.
Because you got different clans in different areas depending on where you're living. So this clan out here is notoriously aggressive compared to, say, a clan you'll get in the Springbrook, Gold Coast hinterland ranges. So they're different. And I think it's the way they've been brought up and probably socially with the interaction of humans and all that sort of jazz. But that's another story again. So we were out there. It wasn't necessarily an expedition per se. We were just there. It was January 2nd, 2009. And we just had a group of people, and 2 o'clock in the morning, a few people started daring people to walk up this dirt track. And of course, me being me, I took up the challenge. And so I'd gone up there. I sat down in this cascade. Now, as I'm walking up the cascade, this is like a granite cascade, so it sort of goes upwards. And base camp was down the bottom. So as I'm going up, I could smell this sulfuric odor, and it was really pungent, like really, really strong. And you'd always feel it going up your nostrils. That's how strong this odor was. And so I'd radioed down to base, and Steve, who's the local policeman there, he said, "Oh, careful, you know what that could mean." Because so basically you get people describe it as burning electrical sulfur, all that sort of jazz. So anyway, I just totally ignored it because I just thought it was just going to be mildew sort of smell coming out from the rock fishes and so forth. So I'd gone up to the top of this cascade, and I sat there, I had a mag light, bottle of water, and my radio. And so I'm sitting there in the dark, and what I normally do is when we have a camp situation, I like to go away from the camp and sit and listen. And so, because I know that the noise from the camp isn't attractant. So you have to sit there and you wait until something comes along to come down and see what the action's going on in the camp. This is just how it works. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, and then I hear this marching on the top of the ridge just above me, just up here. It's just marching like a soldier, not trying to conceal the sound or anything. This thing had purpose, like real purpose, did not give a damn about being heard. Right. So it's walking from my 45, and it's coming across, marching. I've stood up and I've got on the radio and said, "Is everyone at base?" And said, Yep, we're all down here. I said, "Well, I've got company." And as soon as I said that, this thing turns and runs down this slope. Now, this is in darkness.
It heard you.
Yeah, right. It's running full speed like a sprinter all the way down there. This is terrain that you and I would trip over just trying to just find our foot placements. This thing's sprinting straight down and so fast. And because I think I've read I've sort of written the book on the whole thing, I know what it's going to do. It's going to stop. It has to stop because that's what they do. This thing just keeps running, and then it leaps onto the track just above me, and you hear the footsteps, the footfalls, and then boom, he's down my slope now, and he's going at such a speed. I'm going, he can't stop even if he tried, and bam, right in the chest, and just lifted me. I went through the air and landed in. There was just like this big pool of water. So I've landed in the water, and this thing's standing over the top of me, and it's like, I've done this for so many years, and I've got every single scenario in my focus all the time. If it does this, I'll do that. But if it does that, I'll do this.
What'd you
I've
do?
got it all happening, right?
Yeah.
On this night, all out the window. As soon as that happened.
Panic.
Yeah.
So was it looking into your eyes? Like when it's standing over you?
It was standing above me. And here I am. I mean, I'd love to say, guys, that I was stoic. I was the biggest hero in the world, because I've got it all going on, right? I was hopeless, absolutely hopeless. I was doing these piddly little. I'm just trying to keep this thing off.
Throwing haymakers at it. You're taking swings.
Yeah. I'm trying to do anything you could possibly do. That's what I was doing, and I was yelling for help down there at base camp, and I'm kicking my legs from this way, and I'm doing these stupid little futile, and just to try to. So I didn't want this thing to pick me up and then just smack me straight into a tree, sort of thing, like just break all my bones. It was the scariest thing you could ever possibly imagine. And thank God I had other people. So here's number two. If I didn't have other people with me, he hadn't finished with me, I wouldn't be here right now.
So they came to your rescue and effectively chased him or scared him off.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's walked around the back of the trees. And again, this is like in a valley. It's just really, really dark. So they've picked me up and they've dusted me off. And as we're going around this group of trees where he's walking, heavily forested canopy. So there's no moonlight, there's no reflection from anything, but his eyes self-illuminated.
So they were like glow in the dark eyes.
What?
That's sick.
I can't even picture what
That'll
that
explain
would
how
look
we
like.
could run through that terrain, right? Like, because he could see it. You couldn't. He's evolved that way. Now, could you get much of his shape? Like, are we looking... Look, when I was a kid, one of my favourite movies was Harry and the Hendersons.
That's what I was thinking.
And
Yes, I love
John Lithgow,
that.
great movie. Bloody,
Yes.
don't shake your head, Dean. Don't be so negative. It shaped my future, and look at me. My mind is open now because of Harry and the Hendersons.
But
So
it obviously
don't knock it. It's a great movie.
Mind you, I'm sure if we looked back, the costume would be not as good as what we
it's pretty
remember.
shoddy.
I've got another story. Hang on a sec. Just let me get this one before I forget to say that. Before I get to tell this one. Look, I've done television, radio, etc. for the last 30 years, and print media, etc. all around the world. And I've done documentaries with Discovery, Animal Planet, National Geo, blah blah blah. 5-6 weeks in the Amazon with Discovery and Solomon Islands and all this sort of stuff. And I did a doco with William Shatner last year and all that. And but when I received the email this morning saying Grant Denyer,
You thought it was a hoax.
that was William who?
Only Mr. Star Trek and one of the greatest voices this world has ever heard.
Yeah, look at that.
I've got Grant Denyer.
Yeah.
Oh, Willie.
I was absolutely thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled. I was.
That's kind.
It's not often that I. You know what my wife said to me before this interview? She goes, "Don't tell Grant you love him."
Oh, why
That'll make it weird.
Like
That'd make it weird.
no.
Yeah, no,
mate,
mate. Look,
look,
a big thrill.
We've
I'm
got
really happy.
open minds on this podcast. We cover
Yeah, we
some
do.
ground. Look, and sometimes we get a little bit worried that maybe we're oversharing or that what we're saying might come across from someone who's not as open-minded as us and maybe not as worldly, who might think we're a bit crazy, we're a bit wacko. How have you sort of dealt with? Because this is, mate, this topic's out there, right? And I always believe that in folklore, in storytelling and folklore, there's always a bit of truth, right? There's always a bit of truth, and I believe that this might be just one of those where it is fair income. How do you dedicate your life to this when the rest of the world just doesn't get it and they don't believe it and they call you nuts for even thinking it?
Well, they don't.
That's good.
I'm normally, in everyday life, I'm a pretty serious sort of guy.
Yeah.
And I don't suffer fools easily. Now, I have people contact me pretty much every day with a story, and I can't keep up.
Wow.
I cannot keep up with the documentation. Now, the Australian National Library takes my work so seriously that they preserved my work forever. I had to sign a release with the Australian National Library. It's because I've got documentation from the First Fleet basically onwards, and it's pretty serious stuff, and it rocks people's worlds. It changes people's attitude to the Australian bush and how they view the Australian bush, and it changes. For example, we had an ex-military guy that his whole life was all about bushwalking. That's just what he did. Any free time he had, that's what he did. But when he crossed paths with one in Binnaburra, which is in the Gold Coast hinterland, no, game changer. He will never ever walk in the Australian bush again alone.
Wow. Yeah, right.
And look,
George's face. George lives in Queensland.
You're dead
from the bush. Hey, Dean, I got a question for you. To somebody out there who might be a complete skeptic of everything and all your hard work that you do, what is the one thing you say to them to almost push them over the line to maybe believe just a tiny bit of it?
Well, I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm here to present the facts.
What are the facts?
The facts are the documentation, basically, and witness testimonies. Now, if you listen to some of our YouTube videos of the witnesses telling their own stories from their own hearts, what they experienced, you can feel it. And it's different to reading text. And again, it comes down to this life-changing experience. I've had some of the most hardened people phone me in tears, hard men, farmers, truck drivers, police, military. And I've been on there's a lot of things. There's some things I can't say, but let's just say, I've done some information swaps. So it's a pretty serious thing. And it's been going on since the Aboriginals, and it's still happening now.
That's what
the Aboriginals told the white people about the hairy man of the bush when we arrived in this country. It wasn't too long after that we're bumping into these things ourselves as white people, as we're building roads and colonies and all around the country. Now, we didn't have communication back in those days, right? So there's no email, there's no faxes, there was no instant message, but they're all popping up.
No camera phones.
Exactly.
Yep. What the Indigenous say their relationship with the Yowie was like? Was it foe or friend to them?
God,
and
they feared them. They feared them. It's like every culture, every Indigenous culture in the world, and I've spoken to a lot of them around the world. They all have the same belief: you do not walk the bush by yourself at night ever. They are fearful. You never want to be the last person in that line that's walking.
Oh, you get picked
they were
off.
extremely fearful of abductions, particularly women and children. It was terrifying.
So are there? Because I know that there's lots and lots of sightings and people who have had experiences. Have you had anybody to say that they've been abducted?
Yes.
Or you have?
What?
Oh.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were over in Solomon Islands, and this is during the uprising of Harold Kiki and the rebels. And this is funny because we're with our group of natives, and we're going, okay, we need to stay away from the rebels, because the rebels are dangerous, because they just like machine gunned everyone in like the marketplace and all that sort of thing. And go, just as long as we don't go past any rebels. It was the rebels we were with. So that's the story within itself. But,
You were with the rebels. Holy, they're fearsome.
that's
why
they weren't. This is why they weren't scared of the rebels.
Yeah, right.
They were the rebels.
They were the rebels. So we interviewed a woman who had. I'll show them. I can't just throw images up because I've got them all. I'll give them to you. She'd been abducted, and then her tribe, her son, her husband, etc. They tracked this thing down to a cave, and they'd cornered it, and this thing basically just let her go. Now, if they hadn't have tracked her down, she'd just be another missing person. And this is sort of gets me onto the other topic of missing people, and I attribute a lot of bush-related missing people to these things, because believe you me,
Really?
I've been on the pointy end more than one time.
So if they abduct you? What do they do to you? Like, are you
food?
Do they just kill you, or are you a toy, or like?
They want to have.
I think
have
if you're
the
female,
sex?
you'd be a toy.
Oh,
If you're a what?
Jesus.
I missed that.
Oh, he said if you're a female, you would be a toy.
Yeah, right.
So you're saying it's a mating sort of sex thing?
It's the history of the world, and it's scientifically backed.
So they're like caveman mentality, kind of?
Yeah, kind of. But I mean, it's like, you get all the do-gooders out there that know nothing, and they go, oh, they're just protectors of the bush, and you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. Bull. What a load of crap. That's all fairy floss and candy cane. That's absolute rubbish, because they will find you. And like, I'm one of these people. I didn't go looking for them. They found me.
Yeah.
And look, there's a lot of
There's
people.
no such thing as a female Yowie. Sorry, GD.
You go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There are, but they're not seen as often.
What are they
as
doing?
those.
Are they? Whereabouts are they? Are they in hibernation, or are
probably
they
trying
like
to-
keeping
Washing
everything
dishes and-
washing? Yeah.
Probably trying to get away from the smelly man who's off trying to
Probably.
abduct.
The man's out doing the hunting, I guess. So
Well,
yeah.
that's
I think that's pretty much right, Grant.
Yeah.
I think you're right there.
That's the tribal thing, that's always been done. And you know what? You know what fascinates me about this story is you're right. There's so many cultures on so many different continents who have recorded this in part of their history. Back, predating books and writing. There's inscription and drawings on the inside of caves, right? So this is a similar story told all over the world, going back since the dawn of time, that somehow all seem very, very similar, right? So you go, okay, if we just triangulate that, there you go. Like that's verified evidence going back, centuries that has been documented. It's I know people would. You tend to go, and the everyday person who just gets their news from their same source every single day, from their phone, from their same websites, are going to go, okay, if these things exist, why aren't they on the news? Why isn't 7 News reporting it tonight?
The other thing is that people go, oh, why don't we know more about all these sightings? Because people don't go to the media. There's fear of ridicule involved here.
That's true.
Right? So where do they go? They come to us.
Yeah, you're right, and
Yeah, that is
it's
true.
not on the news every night because you gotta think about. Well, yeah, of course we've pushed out. We've encroached on land as cities in Australia have expanded, but my God, there's a heck of a bushland out there right throughout Australia.
Yeah, right.
There's
The same size as America. They've got 320 something million people, and look at the size of Australia.
Yeah, there's plenty of places to hide.
You
mate.
live your whole life out there and never be discovered if that's your choice.
Yeah.
I've gone to a lot of places I've done a lot of outback traveling just through my various jobs and careers, and there's so many places that no one would ever know ever exist. And we joke that we'd go, well, if you're ever getting rid of a body, here'd be the place to do it. Australia just is so massive, and you got to remember that 98% of the population only lives on 1% of the land mass. Right?
Isn't that crazy?
So you do the math. That means there's 99% of the landmass where these things could hide.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
then, Dean, in all your years, I can see what looks like foot casts behind
yeah.
you or something, like
Yeah,
off to the
yeah.
side. Yeah. So what have you been collecting? What have you found in all your, like what tangible evidence like the foot castings or things have you discovered?
Well, how about footage? That's a good start.
Yeah.
We have the footage, and there's 2 that walked out. Okay, so let me just do a background on this. I think it was, what are we in now? 2023. I think it was April of 2021. So it's about 2 years ago. And we'd tracked these things. So, I mean, when you have some experience in what to look for, you can actually track. And these ones, but in particular on this mountain close to Springbrook, they were leaving all these signs, symbols and what have you. And so we followed all these and go, wow, this place is really active. We need to get up here with some equipment. And I just recently invested in some new thermal cameras. And one of our guys, Buck, he'd never used one before. So it's about 11 o'clock at night. We'd set up a base camp on top of this hill, mountain. I mean, it's really thick rainforest, basically. So you get the gist of how it looks and canopied and etc. And so Buck got a quick lesson on how to work the camera. And Buck, being Buck, as patient as all heck, just goes off into the darkness and he's just playing around. And so we get a radio feed, and we all got ear mics in. I was playing classical music as an attractant, something that you do, and also cooking a few things for some smell in the air. And Buck gets on the radio to us and says, "I've got something." And one of our guys says, "Do you want some backup?" He goes, "No, not yet. Stand by." And about 10 minutes later, he comes back and goes, yeah. And yeah. And so what happened was, and you can play this footage and you do an overlay if you like. He's panned in on two of them walking through the bush towards him, and one's facing base camp, and it leans down and it extends his big long arm all the way down to the ground, and it picks something up and it hands it over his shoulder to the one behind him. Then the one behind him, he's in reverse. He's watching his back. So they're back to back, basically. And this is how they operate. And with the Yowie, where you find one, there's another not too far away. This is why you won't find the dead, right? Because they work in like teams. So this one's facing the other way, watching his back. This one's facing base camp, and he's leant down. He's picked something up and he's handed over his shoulder. And the other behind him, he picks it up. Yep, great, got it. And he leans down again. He picks up the other thing, whatever it was, and hands it over his shoulder. And then he sees one of our guys coming up the track, and they turn around. They walk back into the bush. So fascinating stuff. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And when he went, we measured it 9 feet tall.
Wow.
And the heads, the size of the heads, you should show it. Do an overlay. The size of the heads sitting on these massive shoulders, it was not human.
Bloody hell. Can you pull up anything on your phone and just hold it up to the camera so we can see it now? Have you got something that's really quick by?
Yeah.
Well, if we're really good with technology, you can share your screen or something. You know how people do that?
Look,
That's if I'm really good with
I was
technology.
expecting him to have video footage.
Well, I think I've seen video footage. I think that's how I know that it's
Here we go. Oh! All right, so we're looking at a thermal camera here.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Kezzy's in the video.
Yeah, so you've got the main one there, then the other one sort of what you see over to the one side is the other one looking the other way.
Wow. So that's them in the facing forward and backward position.
Yeah.
All right, so like one.
And so how's this one, right? It looks like Homer Simpson. Hang on, give me an angle.
Oh, yeah.
That's the side profile. And you see the surgical crest, and you'd see the outline of its head.
Yeah, you can, yeah. Oh my gosh! And when you say you could sort of measure its size, so you're observing it next to trees and limbs and stuff, so you could just walk up and then oh wow, that looks, yep,
It looks buff.
in black and
Pretty
white.
impressive, isn't it?
So are they covered in hair? Yeah, they are.
Is it more animal or more man?
Well, there's the quandary, really, because
It's
people
neither.
interpret it different ways. People say, well, it's ape-like, but with human qualities, particularly in the face. Or they'll say, well, it's kind of human, but no, this is like pre-human.
Do they communicate?
Yeah.
Like just with noises, or just nothing we obviously recognise?
When you say communicate, do they communicate verbally with each other or to humans?
with each other.
I've never. Well, mainly
My stomach just growled, which sounded what I think would sound like a yowie. No.
mainly they'll do like the wood taps. If you watch shows like Finding Bigfoot, I know all these guys. We're all in the same circle, so we all talk, and that's it's just not realistic what they do. What we do is realistic. So if you're going to do a tree tap or something like that, you've got to sort of judge how you're going to do it, how many, and the harshness. So if you're going to communicate with somebody that's just up over there, you just go tap tap, because you don't want to bring attention to yourself. So tap tap, and then you might get something in return. I mean, vocalizations, we can get vocalizations. The vocalizations that I've had, oh my God, Jesus,
haunting. I reckon that'd be terrifying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, give us a version.
You're talking about a vocal capacity so far beyond humans that their diaphragm must be so freaking big. The big ones, this is what I'm referring to, the big ones. It's enormous.
Wow. That'd be Fucking terrible.
Yeah. And so the one that
so
chased me in
scary.
Ormo, when he was running and he's chasing me, on each step, his diaphragm would bounce. So he'd go, at the same time, over the top of that, he's yelling at me.
And that from what I've watched in American sort of Bigfoot hunters, they describe a very similar sort of thing. You must be, look, Australians are pretty funny. We don't take too much seriously. So when someone comes up with something, we're very quick to knock people. Americans aren't quite the same. Are you a really big deal in the States? You know, because you've got so much evidence. They love that shit over there. You must be the guy.
Yeah. Well, Connor.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, kind of. I've been doing it for a long time and produced the goods. But then again, I mean, we look at much work and effort I put in over the years, over the decades. I mean, I've pumped in well over $120,000 worth of equipment and stuff from the analog ages to today's digital.
So what's the end goal for you, Dean? What are you working towards? Do you go out and you hunt them? Or you go out and you study
document them or
document
record
them,
them.
yeah.
Document, yeah.
So, have you or has anybody ever tried to I guess shoot one and bring one back in?
Yeah, they've been shot. Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Now, when I had the bad one at Ormo, this thing was just a bad piece of work, and I wouldn't be surprised that he's responsible for a few missing people as well. In fact, there were a few missing people around in that area at that time that I kind of attribute, but I can't prove. But I ended up getting some favours called in from the SAS, and these guys went up there and let's just say they had a word with him.
Oh, right. So they found him.
Aunt Middleton.
Aunt Middleton.
Aunt Middleton went up there and he yelled at him in his English accent.
First night, oh yeah, wouldn't that be great? First night, they had nothing. It was what they call NTR, nothing to report. And then the second night, it just all happened. Yeah.
Wow. So
What's the latest data, mate? Where are they now?
Everywhere. Yeah. Someone asked me yesterday. They said, "Well, have you been asked this question before? How many are they? How many are there?" And I said, "Well, my generic response is quite simple. There's no shortage of them. They're everywhere."
yeah, right.
See, I always just for whatever reason, my kid brain only told me there was one. There was just the one.
No.
But then, when we did all our panther research, we kind of realised that now that they've obviously bred with probably, domestic wild cats, and there's some sort of hybrid version of them getting around in reasonable numbers. And we got some video footage on our own farm and some paw prints and we got some night cameras out as well. Didn't get anything, but we got except paw prints and just a little bit of grainy time 10 zoom on my iPhone in the middle of the afternoon. But the I don't know where I was going.
Well, there's a study came out. It was not last year, but the year before. It was from a university in New York, and they used the trail camps, and I think they had something in the vicinity of, oh God, I mean, it's every single brand. They had like 60 or something different types of trail cams that they were using and testing on animals, and they came up with the conclusion. It was proven that any animal that has light-sensitive eyes can see the infrared, the invisible IR, right? Now, not only that, they can audibly hear the mechanism. When you remember back in the old days when you could turn a TV on, but you're not having a volume, but you can actually hear the electricity.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like the static.
That sort of. Yeah,
Yeah,
they can hear that
hum.
coming out of that. So it's a proven test that that light sensitive eyes can see it.
Yes.
Now, when people come to me and they're having a problem on their rural property, and this happens a lot, right? A lot on rural properties, particularly lone women with kids, they'll be stalked.
Hang on. So, all right, people are calling you up saying, "What's their scenario? What's happening?"
All right, for example. All right, lone woman, 3 kids, living alone on a rural property.
It's me. No, just kidding.
And they get bumps in the night, bangs on the door, bangs on the walls, something, a shadow going past the window, blah 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 blah. And it ends up being, it's not human, right? because we've already established this because I've gone through my investigation type thing. So what I say is they will know you better than you realize. They'll know the sound of your car. They'll know what time you leave for work in the morning. They'll know what time you come home. And they get very, very protective of women in particular. And if a new guy turns on the scene, watch out.
It's a threat.
Yeah. So all of that. So what I say to them essentially is that if you set up a perimeter of trail cams around your house, I'll guarantee you 100% you'll have a good night's sleep.
Right. So that deters them. So they really want to be anonymous. They really don't want
they
to
just
be
would have
seen
learned,
or-
I would imagine, over the
That's
years
survival.
of that, what threat is, and the evolution would dictate that they would have to learn from past mistakes. So therefore, they don't want to put themselves in situations where
They don't want to draw attention to themselves.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So then tell me the classical music, playing of classical music, how does that draw them in? What?
Okay, so it's pretty obvious. You want them to know you're there. You want to create some interest for them to come and have a look at you. You can't go find them. They've got to find you.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So if you do something that's non-intrusive like classical music, and that's just my way of thinking, and it worked.
Yeah.
And then, you're just having your barbecue and, you're just doing all the normal sounds and laughter of humans and just banter and stuff. If something's in the area, they'll 9 times out of 10, they'll come and have a look to see what's going on.
Well, that is so creepy. All those years as a kid that I used to camp out.
You don't know what I know. If you know what I knew, geez, will you be creeped the hell out? Yeah.
We used to think it was pigs. Like when we were camping and you'd
never
hear
going
things
camping again.
like rustling through the bushes and we used to think it was pigs.
George.
Dean, has there ever been any sightings of a Yowie in the city or in a township or in like a main street, like close to where a lot of people are residing?
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised where they can turn up. Where I was chased, for example, that was in between the townships of Ormo and Norfolk. Now, at the time, Norfolk was a brand new establishment. Prior to then, probably a couple of years, it was just all bush. So there was basically just a corridor, a bushland corridor. And this thing had obviously come down through the mountains and was still using this as a corridor, very thin corridor. But he's getting back. People have them in their backyards, providing there's a corridor.
I live at the foot of a mountain, so I'm freaking the hell out now.
Well, the other thing to take into consideration is that they're in a human-ish form, okay?
Yeah.
Human-ish form, and in the dead of night, you just think they're a human in the distance.
Yeah, true.
So what do
So
you
they get away with a lot.
So what do you do if you see a Yowie or if you're somewhere and you think that there's a Yowie watching you? Which
Crime Stoppers?
Good
Cold-
and bad, good
cold-
and bad, and everything. Just like humans, just like animals. And we all have good and bad days. And some people are just bad. Some animals are just bad. So it depends on which one you get. But if you're out there alone, it's not very good.
I know.
It's not cool.
I know there's a lot of people to be just like, how would they have come about? But when you think about what we have done to let's just pick a species, say dogs, right? You think of what we have done in terms of the crossbreeding and the manipulation. We have created so many genre of animals: short, tall, dotted, long, wide, fat, hairy, not hairy. Like we just through the breeding process, we have created virtually completely different manufactured animals. Who's to say that way back thousands of years ago, a bit of this animal and a bit of that
This is how
animal.
everything worked.
Exactly.
This is how everything worked. That's exactly the melting pot that we are today in society.
That's right.
Right?
So do you,
It's a proven fact.
have we evolved from them into humans, or they're a completely different beast?
they're
or,
different. Remember at the start of the chat?
Yeah.
Look, I can't remember
They
the
are
names.
different. Yeah.
So they're different
Yeah.
from apes.
So, I mean, one of the greatest reports that we had was from a paleo archaeologist. Now, this is a guy with a science background. Now, he was doing research out there for the Australian government in 2017 on the border ranges. Now, I'm not quite sure if you know where that is. It's kind of like the border between New South Wales and Queensland. And, it's sort of like, the Springbrook and there's the big mountainous area. Anyway, so he goes to places where most people don't. So he hikes up Cascades and goes top of the mountains because he surveys, and he's doing a lot of work for like Aboriginal protecting different areas that was of significance. And so he's gone up this cascade and he's gone up this mountain, gone up and up and up and up. And as he's sort of like pottering around and looking at things, he's noticed something in the corner of his eye. And he's going, what the... He said he had a camera in his backpack. That was the last thing he was thinking of at that time. He said he's looking at this thing that's standing there, well, actually squatting there like a statue, like Thinking Man.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
And this thing knew he was there, but this thing's basically going, I don't see you, you don't see me. All right, that's the deal.
Is it an agreement?
So yeah. So he's looking at this thing. He's going, I'll just go this way, really, really, really slowly down. And he turns around and he's like tiptoe, 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 run as fast as he can. And he said, I mean, this was like a real. Like it changed his perception of the way he views the Australian bush as well, as I say, with most of these people, including myself. But he said this thing should not have existed in 2017. This thing should have been here 200,000 years ago. And he said, I know exactly what I was looking at because this is what I study.
Whoa. Oh, my God.
Because that's his area of expertise. So he could see all the makings of it and go, that makes sense.
Yes.
He could see the origins. He could see its structure.
Yep.
He could see its DNA strain.
Another one. Okay, so about 2 years ago, we went to the valley that's next to where we got the footage. And during the night, the previous night, it had been heavily raining. Now, when it rains on the Gold Coast, it can rain. It's just like a flood. So it was raining up until about 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, we arrived about 7-ish and we went down through the Cascades. We went down into this valley where nobody ever goes. Now, we're walking along, we're checking out all these signs and all that sort of thing. Now, as we get right down to the bottom, there's a stream. Now, this stream would have been a few feet higher a few hours earlier because of the rain. It had just lowered, and in the middle of this creek is a big rock. And it's probably about that far above the water level. On top of the rock is this big, long stool sample. Like really big, long stool sample. And I've got video of it, the whole thing, if you need it. So
no, I'm good, man. You can just describe it to me.
No, I want to see it.
I don't need no photos of shits on my phone. My kids go through my phone.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is unique because what goes to the toilet on top of a rock in the middle of a creek? Now, it's not going to be a dog.
No.
It's not going to be, you wouldn't think a human would be down there because there's only a short window of time that this could happen from the rains at 3 a.m. to when we were there at, say, 7, 8.
Yeah, humans not going to do it on the rock in the middle of a creek. That is very inconvenient.
Now, if you're going to do that, there's some purpose to it, right? So the purpose, in my opinion, would be because you can do it there and you can clean yourself at the same time.
Right.
And also, you would expect that all to be washed away and no trace. And this is kind of what they do with their footprints as well. Anyway, different story. So we'd bagged this thing. It was the worst smell. It was not human. I'm telling you that right now. This was not human. Yeah. Right? there is a distinctive difference between what emanated from this to human. This was not human. It was like you were just dry reaching the whole time. It was that bad. It was just like something out, and it didn't matter how far away from it you were just dry reaching. You were gagging. So we've had to bag it and we've frozen it. So I used my paleo and anthropologist witness because he's got his hooks into all these different unis. And I said, look, I think we've got something here. So we sent it away to Lismore, and this is during COVID. And so they did they did an egg count on it. So they have glossaries basically of all different animals and their stool samples, or scat samples we call them. And so you can identify animals by the egg counts. So low-lying animals, which ground dwelling, I should say, they have X amount, and tree like koalas, etc., and capture tree, they have X amount, and that they go from there. So they've got books and all this. So most animals have something in the vicinity of 12 to 30,000 eggs in these stool samples.
What do you mean eggs? Like
they're eggs, like larvae.
Oh, like larvae.
Oh,
okay, like
right.
parasitic sort of eggs.
Yeah, parasitic.
Gotcha.
And it came up with nothing. Now, there's only 2 species that will give you nothing. One is human and the other is primate. And we know for damn sure that was not human.
Wow.
Absolutely not human, right? So they were so impressed with this analysis that they had to do it twice. They tested it again. Nothing.
Did they test what was in it?
Yeah, what's eating? What's it eating?
From what I saw, not wanting to go too close, but it was definitely carnivore.
Yeah, right.
Now, okay, so that being said, now our guy, our scientist, he goes, "This is really exciting." He said, "This should not happen. This is exciting. Let's go do the DNA test. Do you want to pay for it?" I said, "Yes, I'll pay for it." So they sent the DNA test down to Sydney, and they did the test, and the test results came back going, well, we can't really tell. There's not enough DNA. And our guy goes, "What a lot of crap." I mean,
Literally.
Yeah,
So
literally.
So
because that's the go-to basically of if you don't have an answer, you go, "Not enough DNA." Now, do you remember over the last couple of months, there's been a big police inquiry over the whole DNA?
Yeah, the Queensland lab.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Familiar.
exactly the same scenario. It's just laziness. That's what it comes down
They're
to.
like, oh, we don't recognise what it is, so we'll dismiss it
So we
as
just say that.
inadmissible.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, right.
Do-do-do-do.
So therefore, we had it. We had it.
Sugar.
I know that we've kept you well over time, so just before we let you go, Dean, please give yourself a massive big plug and tell everyone who's listening where they can find you if they need to.
Okay, my name's Dean Harrison. I'm the founder of Australian Yowie Research. I've got yowiehunters.com, and we've got some great interviews with witnesses telling their own stories, and all our stories are real. And we've got documentation from the 1800s to current day.
I mean, the website
love
is next level. There's so
and
much
and Grant Denyer.
Yeah.
I'm on board, brother.
Yeah.
I'm not. My wife said. I'm not allowed to say I love you.
Mate, if you ever want to go scat hunting together in the bush, I won't tell if you don't.
Who?
Don't go with Grant.
I know you get hit up all the time by people all over the world, and you knock a lot of them back because you're just too flat out, and you said yes to us, and thank you.
I do, and I'm absolutely flattered that you guys have asked me. It's a big thrill for me, and thank you so much. And I'd love to come back on again sometime.
That'd be
mate.
so awesome.
Whenever you got
guys.
some new evidence, you give us a buzz. You'll be straight on, brother.
Absolutely.
Come out with me, Grant.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
There's a TV show in that, isn't there?
Bloody oath there is.
Yeah.
There is.
Bloody oath.
Yeah.
Hanging. Now you're talking.
Yeah.
I did a little appearance on that Channel 7 news show Spotlight, talking about what I'd seen as a kid UFO wise. Mate, if you've got some activity and you want to drag me out and you want to go and film it, I'm 100% in. I'm in.
Okay. Are you really? Okay.
Oh, bloody
I'll
oath.
hold you there.
Yep.
I'm actually, mate.
Yeah.
There's no other journo would
Let's
touch
do
it,
it.
right? There's no other journo. I'm not really a
do it.
journo. I used to be a journo and a terrible one. But no one would touch it. But I'm there and I know I could bring the cameras and I know we'd put it on air and I'm in.
Yep.
I'd love to do something with you. That'd be great.
Jeez, that'd be good fun.
That'd be awesome.
Thanks for sharing
Yeah,
your
indeed.
insight, mate, and all your expertise.
Thanks, George.
We
Nice
appreciate
to
it.
see you too.
Yeah.
Lovely to see you, mate. That was really great. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Okay,
so
all right.
much, Dean.
Take care, Dean.
We'll see you later. Bye.
See you, my man.
Bye.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
You
Oh
know
my
what?
God. I'm petrified now thinking back to all those times that I heard rustles in the bush and stuff. And I just thought it was a pig. Do you know how much confidence I've had in the bush? Actually, no. Considering the facials that I pulled that were on, we're on the show when you went down, I think a Yowie would be scared of me.
I think they would be. I've looked at George's top lip, and I reckon he might be 10% Yowie.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so
No,
interesting.
Look, I love Dean. I'm not fully a believer yet, though.
Nah, it's a tough one. I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot.
But how can you not believe it when there's so many sightings and there's so many? I know they don't have any bodies, but people have hair that they've tested for DNA. People have, the heat sensing. Like the footage is difficult to to
we
kind
only,
of
we,
work
only,
out.
we
but-
only just showed us a bit of thermal picture, right? So we haven't gone through his back
But it's
catalogue.
right.
I feel like I need to do a bit more of a deep dive and a bit more research into it. But I love the passion. I love what he stands for, and it's super interesting.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an open mind, and with all of these topics that we have on this podcast.
Always, yeah.
That's what we're all like.
I feel like my dad knew somebody who had come face to face with
You
a
ask your
Yowie.
dad, I 100% will tell you he'd say, yes, I know of a story.
Yes,
There's
'cause
no
he-
doubt. Because I did the same thing with the Panthers. And he went, mate, not only have I seen one, but yeah, I've got dozens of stories of other people who have.
Yeah,
So
that is true.
He's a bushy. He's a
Yeah.
bushy who knows lots of bushies.
Yeah,
And
I
bushies,
know
you got to remember in Australia, bushies are quiet people. They're not big noters. They're not attention seekers. Bushies are quiet people. They're humble people.
Yeah.
They're not really going to stir up a hornet's nest by telling everyone because that's a whole lot of drama they don't want.
Do you know what?
What?
Okay, so there's a real weird synchronicity like that most people don't realize, but I'm just thinking back now. So when my dad first moved to Bathurst, he moved to Burriga and they had a farm out there, which is where I'm sure Burriga was the place where somebody had seen a Yowie. Now, George's family
Our family farm is out at Burriga now.
have moved to Burriga.
Big family of non-believers of the Yowies out there.
Oh my gosh, that's like...
I'm gonna touch base and see if there's been any. Look, Christmas just gone. I was walking around the paddocks of Burriga by myself. I might not be doing that again.
No, mate.
No.
I remember being on the farm out near Wagga, and I'd left maybe the radio on down in the shed, and in the darkness I've had to leave the house, and the shed's probably, I don't know, maybe 400 meters away, like a fair distance. And in the dark I got to walk through, no light, just over the shed just to turn the radio off. And you just have that feeling that something's watching you, and you're like, just look straight ahead, bro. Straight ahead. Just get there, turn that off. And then on the way back, I always run quicker. I always walk quicker. Yeah. Same when I go to the fridge at night. When I go to the fridge at night and I close the door, I'm like, I'm walking back. Go a bit quicker, go quicker. Don't look back. Don't look back.
What? At the fridge?
Yeah.
Well, who's coming to get you in the house?
Oh, you never know. I don't know.
Sunday.
I don't know if it's spirits. I don't know what I'm feeling, but I can feel it.
Do you know the other
And
day?
like having a foot outside of the bed as well. Like you got to be fully tucked in. You can't have a foot exposed in case something comes and grabs your foot.
No, I'm not worried about
What?
that.
Oh my God, is that a bed monster?
Yeah, the boogie monster
The
underneath the
boogie
bed.
monster. The other day we were in the kitchen in our house and we saw this fox walk past the window and it was really big and it just looked in and just stared at us, and we were like, oh, they normally bolt when they see you, and then it just squatted, did a wee.
Oh, yeah.
and
Looked
then
at us in the eyes and went,
flicked
did a
its
piss,
leg.
and then went,
yeah,
cop that, and then
and then
Bit of sass.
walked off.
you little cheeky
Like,
bastard.
yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're going to have to send Grant out to do a little bit of research.
Look, if it came down to it, one-on-one, me versus the Yowie, I don't like my chances.
No.
Just quietly.
9 foot.
You know what I mean?
No,
You'll
but-
find me hanging from a tree upside down, and I will be the message to anyone else who wants to come, looking for the Yowie. He'll use me as the message.
It'll be your toy. We'll have to come in with
You hear
the
me
SAS
squealing
to try and
like
get
a
you
bitch
back.
in the bush. I've been made some Yowie's bitch.
I know how scared you get even of baby field mice and you're like screaming. So imagine like if a Yowie had you.
No, I'll be calling the friggin' army in. Be like, yeah. What's that? What is it? No, it's not Terminator. What's the movie?
Oh my God. What, King Kong?
No, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the bush with Predator.
Tarzan.
Feels very predator-ish.
Isn't Predator an alien?
Yeah. I actually don't know.
Creepy.
it, it will bleed.
Oh, that was good fun.
You know what? Look, I can kind of feel what people are thinking right now, and I get it. It's okay. Just, don't hate us for trying to explore new territory. Don't think we're weirdos for entertaining someone who has a completely different, field of vision and point of view.
If anyone's listened to this episode and to this point,
What, and
they
it's
know
triggered
that,
you?
No, and they know how random our podcast is.
Yeah.
We go from last week crying, talking about Grant nearly dying, to this week we wanted to do something completely different.
Now you want to send me off to bloody be killed by a Yowie?
Yeah.
Never ending.
Jesus Christ, when can I just live a peaceful, quiet, happy, healthy life?
Every day. Well,
Stay safe out there.
we love you.
Just remember, Yowies are everywhere.
It's all true.
Be true.
Stay safe.
Take a photo of the Yowie.
Don't take a shit on a rock.
DNA test.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Shezzy Denya.
Bye bye. See you next time.